Right, let's get on then. Enough from me. I'd like to welcome our next speaker. Monica Soriano is the Senior News Editor of the BBC Technology and Innovation Story Team. She's the first female editor of the BBC News Technology channel Click, and she's in charge of the BBC Technology news coverage. Delighted that she came back to Scotland in 2015, obviously a great draw to come back to our wonderful country. I'm delighted, and I always love seeing a woman in tech, I have to say, as somebody who's very passionate about doing that. So enough from me now. Monica, can I welcome you to the stage? Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you very much for coming. I'm glad there's lots of people here. Believe it or not, I'm not really used to doing much broadcasting because my whole career I've been a producer and an editor, so I normally, I'm just telling the reporters and the correspondents what to do and the presenters rather than appearing in front of vast crowds of people. But here I am. So before I tell you about what our team does and how we might be able to work together in the future, I'll just give you a flavour of some of the things that we've been making since our team relocated to Scotland.
Coming up this week.
If there's something strange in your neighbourhood, who are you going to call? Drone busters.
Also, Spot the Builder.
Is it the robot dog by any chance?
Okay, Spencer, here's a question. Can tech make you a better rapper?
I want to go bolder.
Sounds like it can, yes. And what's this? Lara at a rave?
Yes, I'm at a rave. Don't say a word. I've got bass in a backpack. This is amazing.
Hey, welcome back. And first up this week, we're going to be talking about drones, which gives us a perfect example to show off our shiny new base here in Glasgow.
Which is rather picturesque.
Yeah.
Not that drones are always welcome.
True, and James Clayton's been checking out some of the latest tech designs to take drones out of the sky.
Right, so that was just a bit of flavour of one of the sort of pieces of broadcasting that our department's responsible for, Click, which has been going for 20 years. I'm sure there's quite a lot of people in this room that may have caught a few episodes of that, and I just wanted to sort of demonstrate how we're in Glasgow. We're really proud to be in Glasgow, but we're still covering stories from all over the world. It's just some of the elements of the production are based here. So who are we? We're a team of around 20 journalists, producers, video journalists who make films that you see in that, who also produce their own items and sometimes report on them. We've got the BBC's first ever on-screen technology editor, Zoe Kleiman, who's based in Glasgow too. We work for BBC News and we produce content which is shown around the UK and around the world every day, online, on the radio and on TV. So it's just sort of, we are in Scotland, but all the stories that, we will do some stories from Scotland, but we do stories from everywhere. So one day I could be thinking about what the latest thing that Elon Musk has got up to, or I could be thinking about technology that's being used in Pakistan to help train midwives virtually, or I could be thinking about a technology story which is happening right here in Scotland. So it's very varied every day. We've got three main pieces of output. We've got our news output, which I've just sort of mentioned. We have Technology Index on the BBC News website, which is a really important part of what we do every day. We produce content for the BBC News YouTube channel. We do reporting for all of the sort of main BBC News TV, radio news programmes. And we also make a weekly podcast and programme for World Service, which is called Tech Tent, and that broadcasts every week of the year, 52 weeks a year, so it's quite a big commitment. And we also make Click, which broadcasts 48 weeks a year, and is an even bigger piece of work. But it's really fun and it's really exciting, and it's great to have it here in Glasgow. A bit about our team. I started in this job just over a year ago. My background was in general news rather than working in technology, but I think it's really important for us, and maybe for you, if you have your press teams, get in touch with us. It's about making technology and innovation really accessible to everyday people so they understand about the work that you're doing, and we explain that in a really clear and accessible way. What else? It's also a little bit more about Click in that we broadcast in the UK. We also broadcast on world news all over the world, sort of multiple times. As soon as one of our newer reporters are amazed to find friends all over the world telling them that they've spotted them in random sort of times and places. But our programmes also, if you had your company or products featured on Click, it also would pop up in more unusual places. There's Click Tamil, which is produced by our colleagues in India, and it's a bespoke programme that they produce with their own presenters, but they use our content and the stories that we cover to make stories in their language. So there is like massive potential that it's actually, unfortunately, impossible for us to count our audience because our content is we put into over 20 different languages and shown all over the world in lots of different formats. But I can safely say it's quite a lot of people. It's sort of really exciting for us because we've brought new opportunities which haven't necessarily always been possible for people in BBC to work on this sort of content outside of London. We've got some of our team have moved up for London and sort of moved their families and are just getting to know Glasgow and Scotland at the moment. And we've got really exciting sort of new team members who are really pleased that they've got the opportunity to sort of work here and are already quite engaged and know the sort of tech landscape in Scotland and want to be able to reflect that. A little bit about our mandate. We obviously have sort of alluded to that. We're sort of UK-wide and international, so we'll do stories from everywhere. We aren't focused on Scottish stories. However, we will regularly cover developments, innovations, want to speak to decision makers, agenda setters who are in Scotland to shape our content, because part of the reason of having lots more of the BBC out of London is so that it isn't just we stop being London-centric and we become sort of reflect the whole of the country and not just one part of it. We've got some really exciting, actually, we've covered, I think, one of the stories there, Spot the Dog, the robot who I'm sure some of you are familiar with, was in Shetland, where our technology reporter, Shona McCallum, travelled up to see how Spot the Dog's being used on building sites using 5G to make things safer for the people who are working there. We've also got some really exciting stories which have a really strong Scottish connection coming up, including a company that are developing technology to help do early warning systems for wildfires, which is being used around the world, but a lot of the work on that has been done in the Bay Centre in Edinburgh. We're also going to be covering we got quite a lot of coverage at the time of COP, but it wasn't actually COP26, it wasn't actually working yet. And that's the SWG3 club in Glasgow, which is going to use body heat from clubbers to help power the club. So we're hoping to film that soon. And we're also soon to be doing a piece with on the development of hydrogen batteries to be used in trains. So we'll be off to Bo'ness to film there. I hope that gives you enough of a flavour about what we're actually doing. If you want to work with us, just get in touch. I do get a lot of contacts from lots of different companies all of the time, but I do read the emails and we are really interested to hear from you. I believe on the app, my contact details, you'll be able to figure out my email address. It's monica.soriano@bbc.co.uk, or you can contact me on Twitter. And that's all on the Census app from today, so you can find that there. And if you've got something that you think we should be reporting on or you think might be of interest, get in touch. I might come back to you and say, no, that's not one for us, but it could be. I would say for us to be able to cover something, I guess we aren't an advert, but if it's something that you're doing that's generally new, innovative, really relevant, whether it be to the cost of living crisis that we're all living through at the moment, or something, or has real world sort of climate sustainability solutions, those are ones that are of particular sort of interest to people at the moment. think about how you can explain the story, whether it's you or your press team that you're working with, about how to explain it without jargon, so that as if I always kind of think, if I can explain something to my mum and she can get her head around it, that's a pretty good sort of starting place for everyone. And it'd be good if more people maybe working in all sectors could sort of explain what they're doing in that sort of way. And also think about the sort of, if you want to pitch a story to be on click, it needs to be visual. It needs to be the more sort of pictures, exciting things that you think would grab people's attention if they were watching it on YouTube or watching it on TV. And the other thing is, you know, I'm really proud that I'm the first female editor of Click, and I'm really proud that the first technology editor of the BBC is a woman. Diversity is really important, but so often people approach us on stories with a sort of similar sort of choice of speakers or guests. So it might be that your CEO is a man, and we love to speak to men too, but if you've got someone younger from a diverse background who's a woman or just had a different life experience, it could be potentially talk about what you're doing as well, then that's always really, really welcome as well, and might just edge it to us being able to cover a story. But that's pretty much everything from me. Do get in touch. It's been lovely to have the opportunity to speak to you, and hope the rest of your day goes well.